Good morning, everyone. Before we start, if somebody who has signed up to attend could just clarify in the Q&A box on the right-hand side whether or not you can hear me, we'll then go through introductions and start the presentation. So if you can hear me at the moment, if you could just pop a little yes or a thumbs up or something in the Q&A box, that would be great, and then we can move forward. Thank you. Okay, looks like we've had a little thumbs up there, so thank you to that person. So just to start, my name is Gemma Callow. I am the Communications Manager for Brun Breeze. I'm joined by my colleague Peter Edwards, who's the Principal Clean Air Zone Officer leading on exemptions. Just to remind you that this is being recorded and we will send a copy of the recording to you afterwards. Also, Peter and I are both working from home where there's children and dogs, etc. So apologies in advance for any background noise that may unexpectedly appear. So we'll just get underway now with the presentation. So if you just bear with me for a second. Okay. So Birmingham's introducing a clean air zone this year on the 1st of June, and the reason for that is because air pollution in the city is above legal limits, and across the UK air pollution has been declared a national health emergency. So on screen are some of the figures showing how it does impact here in the city, but just to sort of recap on some of them, it contributes to up to 900 deaths every year, premature deaths, and it's linked to conditions such as heart disease, lung disease and cancer. Children are adversely affected. They are closer to the ground and closer to those exhaust fumes, so they inhale 3 times more air pollution than we do as adults. And those who work in it, such as bus and taxi drivers, are exposed to 3 times more air pollution than anybody else, purely because they're sitting in it all day. So it is a national health emergency, and the government have tasked us with introducing a clean air zone to bring those air pollution levels down to safe and legal limits. So on screen here is just a bit of background that was undertaken prior to COVID that showed that 50% of all journeys into the city centre and into where we're introducing the clean air zone were undertaken by car. And every day, 250,000 of those car journeys were for less than 1 mile. So what the clean air zone is intended to do is to deter those high polluting vehicles from entering the zone, but also encourage those people who are driving for less than a mile, a 20-minute walk, to consider other options, walking, cycling or public transport. So it's important to stress that the clean air zone is not a congestion charge. So we will not be charging every vehicle that enters the zone, only the most high polluting and vehicles that don't meet certain emission standards, which we will talk about in a moment. Clean air zones will be introduced across the UK. Bath goes first next month. They're introducing a category C. In Birmingham, we're introducing a category D clean air zone. So it's up to the local authorities to decide what zone and where to implement them. What category D means is that we will be charging all non-compliant vehicles, including private cars. So that means if a vehicle does not meet the emission standards, it will be charged regardless of whether it is a bus, a taxi, a car or a lorry. So in Birmingham, like I say, we go live on the 1st of June this year, and our clean air zone is everywhere within the A4540 Middleway, but not the Middleway itself. So it's that blue area you can see on screen. So you can drive around the A4540, no problem at all if you're in a non-compliant vehicle. If you're in a non-compliant vehicle and drive into the zone, into that blue area, then you will be subject to the daily charges. If your vehicle is compliant, and the vehicle checker states that you do not need to pay the charges, then you do not need to take any action. So we will only be targeting non-compliant vehicles. So as I mentioned, we'll have I'll explain. We've got ANPR cameras set up all across the zone that will track vehicles as they enter and travel within it. So if you're in a non-compliant vehicle, that's when it will pick you up and you'll be subject to the charges. The charges are £8 a day for cars, taxis and small vans, and £50 a day for HGVs, coaches and buses. It's important to stress that a day is midnight to midnight, not 24 hours from when you enter the zone. But between that midnight to midnight time frame, you can enter and leave the zone as many times as you want for a single charge. We are installing over 300 signs around the border and approach to the zone that will warn you you are entering and approaching a chargeable area. That will be the warning that you get. You won't get a text or a letter. It will be the same as London. So the onus is on you as a driver to know that you're approaching and entering that zone and to arrange payment if you need to. You can pay online or over the phone using the government payment system, which is going to be announced very shortly. And you can pay 6 days before you go in, the day you go in, or 6 days after. So you've got a 13-day payment window. If you don't pay within those 13 days, then you will be subject to a fixed penalty notice in the post of £120, reduced to £60 if paid within 14 days. So what is a compliant vehicle? Will I be charged? Is the first question that everybody wants to know. So the easiest thing to do is to go onto the Brumbury's website and click on the link to the government vehicle checker, where you can enter your registration details and it will tell you whether or not you'll be subject to the charge. The emission standards that we are setting the guidance by is a Euro 4 petrol or better, which is most vehicles that were produced from 2006 onwards, most petrol vehicles I should say. A Euro 6 diesel or better, which is most vehicles produced from September 2015 onwards. Gas Euro 6, fully electric, fully hydrogen fuel cell and a hybrid electric, meeting those petrol and diesel standards mentioned previously. Those dates on screen are a guidance. They are not what we will judge by. It is by the Euro standards. You can find that in your V5C logbook, or like I say, you can go onto the government vehicle checker, input your registration details, and it will tell you whether or not you will need to pay the charge. So despite media reports, this is not intended to be a money-making scheme for the council. If we make no money from the Clean Air Zone, then that's great, because it means we've done our job. The high polluting vehicles that were travelling through the city are no longer passing through and air quality will have improved. However, we do understand that there will be some money made from the scheme, particularly in the early days. So we have to reinvest that in transport related projects and policies. We can't use it for the council's general budget, for collecting bins, etc. It has to go on supporting cleaner, greener travel and improving the city centre for active and sustainable travel, things like that. So one of the measures that we have identified so far as to use the funding is to introduce controlled parking zones around the boundary to the Clean Air Zone to stop people parking their cars on the outside and walking in, causing problems for residents. We are funding a hydrogen bus pilot scheme. There are improvements to the city centre pedestrianisation, like I say, to encourage walking and make that safer and more appealing. And an enhanced programme of active and sustainable travel, such as bus lanes, which you would have seen potentially going in during the lockdown period, and looking to make those systems more permanent. So, like I say, the zone will go live on the 1st of June. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Peter now. He will talk through the support that's available and some of the exemptions.
Thanks, Gemma. Yes, hi, my name's Peter Edwards, Principal Clean Air Zone Officer with overall responsibility for delivering all of the exemptions. As Gemma said, we are working from home, and unfortunately my neighbours are currently having some scaffolding put up about 4 metres from where my desk is situated, so apologies if you can hear any of that drilling. Not a lot I can do about it. Just to say, I'm not sure if Gemma said at the beginning, please use the Q&A text box on screen, and we will address all questions at the end, so please feel free to do that. But also, as Gemma did point out, the webinar is being recorded, so if there's anything you miss, then you can listen back to the recording or hopefully find the answers on our website. But please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box to the side, represented by the little question mark. So yeah, I'm here to talk to you about kind of exemptions and the support packages available. Obviously, this webinar is aimed at people that live in the Clean Air Zone, so that's what I'm going to focus on. You guys are residents, and that's what you want to know about. So residents can access up to 2-year Clean Air Zone exemption from the Clean Air Zone. and that is available to apply on our website at the moment. It's the easiest exemption to qualify for because you simply need to prove to us that you have a non-compliant vehicle and that you live in the clean air zone. The other ones you see on screen here, I'm not going to spend too much time on, given the nature of the people on this call. But if you have friends and family, colleagues, anything who work in the clean air zone, then they can access an exemption if they're earning less than £30,000 a year. Similarly, if you know people that operate fleets within the clean air zone, they can also access a commercial vehicle exemption. These are for 1 year rather than the residents, which is 2. And finally, people who are visiting Birmingham Children's Hospital and the 2 other medical centres within the zone that offer out of hours or emergency services, they will be able to access an exemption. All of the other ones I've talked about are available to apply online now. The visitors to the hospital one will be administered slightly differently in that you will be given a voucher that you credit online to access your exemption. Next slide, please, Gemma. So yeah, residence exemption. What will we ask for you? It's important to point out that just because you're a resident in the clean air zone and you have a non-compliant vehicle, that doesn't make you exempt. You need to apply for it, and we will add you to what we're calling a white list, whereby that your registration, once successful, will be added to a list, and the cameras will pick it up and they will say, oh, that's a non-compliant vehicle, but then they will check against our list and they will realise that you've got an exemption, so you will not be charged, but you need to apply for it. It will not happen automatically. Please apply as soon as possible. We're getting increasingly busy with numbers, and we know by human nature that as we get closer and closer to the 1st of June that people will start to apply. We want you to apply as soon as possible. We can turn your application around very quickly at the moment, but that will take slightly longer as we get closer to the launch of the zone. The exemptions will run from the 1st of June 2021, not when you apply for them. So if you apply, I don't know, for some reason in August 21, you will not get 2 years from that date. You will get until the 31st of May 2023. So again, incentive to apply as soon as possible. And you will need to renew after the 1st year, but that will simply be a process of just showing that you still own that vehicle and you still live in the zone. So what will we ask to see? Well, we obviously need to see that you are the registered keeper of that vehicle. So we need to see the V5 for that vehicle. So that needs to be in your name and registered to your address in the clean air zone. Then we need to see something that proves that you live at that address, and that's on screen. I'm not going to run through that, but an official document. Next slide, please, Gemma. And just to reiterate, that's front and centre of our website, Brunbreathe. So please go to the website, check your vehicle, and go apply as soon as possible. Other exemptions that are available, these ones are not available to apply for as such, but these are kind of more specialist vehicles. So it's important to note that people with a blue badge, having a blue badge does not automatically grant you an exemption from clean air zone charging. However, if you have a disabled, this is always a mouthful, disabled passenger tax classification for your vehicle, that's noted on your V5, due to being in receipt of certain disability benefits, then you have an automatic national exemption from all clean air zones that go live across the country. So at the moment it's only London and their ultra low emission zone. Bath will go live next month, and then us in June, followed in the coming months and years by most major conurbations. Bristol, Greater Manchester, they're all looking at these schemes. Motorcycles are exempt. And then you've got your specialist vehicles such as showman's vehicles, historic vehicles over 40 years old, and specialist vehicles, so gritters, recovery vehicles and emergency services vehicles. And finally, community and school transport. So this is kind of ring and ride, not for profit transport. So they also can access an exemption. Next one, please, Deborah. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because there is not a financial incentive support package for residents. There is a scrappage scheme for people who work in the zone and for people for upgrading their fleets and for Birmingham-based taxi drivers. All of these except the top one are available to apply at the moment. So again, if you know anyone who runs fleets, and this is in the Midlands, not just in the zone, of large heavy goods vehicles, that's buses, coaches, lorries, they may be able to access some of that funding. And again, if you know any taxi drivers, that we have £15 million worth of funding available for them, that is available at the moment to help people upgrade their vehicles to compliant vehicles. Next one, please, Gemma. So Gemma's already touched on a little bit of this, but just to kind of set into context what's happening across the rest of the city as a whole, Birmingham has a transport plan. Since COVID, we have also introduced an emergency transport plan, which has given, which as Gemma's touched upon, we've already seen cycle lanes, bus lanes been put in across the city in response to COVID, giving people more options in how to travel. So the four big visions of that transport plan are shown on screen. I'll just touch on them. So to reallocate road space away from people with private motor vehicles and to give that space to people who are walking, cycling or using public transport. So by taking parking away, to put a bus lane in or a cycle lane in, or putting bus priority, that sort of thing. Transforming the city centre, so the pedestrianisation and making it easier to cross the city centre by public transport and by walking and cycling, and making it in turn slightly less convenient for people driving. Prioritising active travel in local neighbourhoods. So again, this is trying to reduce the number of people who jump in their car to pop to the corner shop and those journeys of less than 1 mile. So we're introducing low traffic neighbourhoods in areas across the city, in Kings Heath, Bourneville, Castle Vale, Lascelles. These sorts of measures are all going in, and there's more planned. And again, it's trying to make it more nicer, more convenient and easier to travel in a more sustainable manner. And finally, managing demand using traffic as a travel demand management tool. So not traffic, parking, apologies. So removing all free parking from the city centre and disincentivizing it, making it less enticing to drive your car into the city centre. And again, like Gemma touched upon, also trying to tackle kind of inconsiderate parking, which has a kind of detrimental impact on residents, especially around the border of the Clean Air Zone. So next slide, please, Gemma. So yeah, again, just trying to put this into some context, really, that the Clean Air Zone is only part of what we need to do in this city when it comes to improving transport, improving pollution, congestion, but it's also to re-emphasise that it's not just the responsibility of Birmingham City Council to do this. We need support of business, of individuals, of the community to start thinking about how they could travel differently. And of course, Birmingham has a responsibility, the City Council has a responsibility to enable that, and that's what we're trying to do with the measures that we've put on the previous slide, but also to say that we're in a climate emergency. We're also in the midst of a public health pandemic, a respiratory one that has been quite widely linked, that air pollution can make COVID worse. So I think it's important just to set that in this context. We've already talked about the fact that we've looking at the introduction of hydrogen buses across the city, a significant expansion of electric vehicle charging across the city, more than 300 charging, and these are rapid charging, fast chargers going in across the city over the next couple of years. We've signed a contract for that, and also to just try and support Hackney carriage drivers, because we know that it's not easy for them to upgrade their vehicles because there's only one on the market, essentially, like ultra low emission one on the market. So there's lots of kind of supporting measures. It's not just a matter of here's the Clean Air Zone, get on with it. There's a lot of kind of supplementary work going on, not just with Birmingham City Council with Transport for West Midlands and partners such as National Express, etc. So I think that completes the slides. I think the next one is simply our contact details. So our website is there. On the front page of the website is a link to check your vehicle on the government vehicle checker. That's the first thing we would urge you to do if you have got a non-compliant vehicle, to see if you're eligible for an exemption, and explore the website. There's a wealth of information in there, but if you can't find what you're looking for, please email us. It's cleanair@birmingham.gov.uk. We monitor that inbox as a team daily. So hopefully, just to reiterate one more time, we will be sending round the slides and the information and this webinar as a recording. So hopefully we've answered a lot of your questions, but what we'll do now, we'll minimize the screen at the slides slightly down, and we'll just check for any questions. I think I can see one has come through. I'm a name driver using my wife's vehicle for work. So if your name, you have to be the registered keeper of the vehicle, not a name driver on the insurance. We won't accept an insurance document. So you need to be the registered keeper of that vehicle in order to apply for the exemption. But the full terms and conditions are on the website. There's also a guidance document which kind of has loads of screenshots which talks you through how to make an application and the various steps and how to upload your documents. But being a named driver is not the same as being the registered keeper, and you would not be eligible in that circumstances, if I've understood it correctly. But it's never great to talk about kind of individual circumstances on these things. So read the terms and conditions, read the guidance document, and if you're still not sure, if you want any further questions, I would recommend dropping us a line at cleanair@birmingham.gov.uk. Can't see any more questions coming through, but what we tend to do is I'll go on mute for a few minutes just before we wrap up. So if there are any questions, please go ahead and type them in now. But as I said, there's a wealth of information on our website, and hopefully our presentation has been informative enough. Thanks, Gemma, for the link that you actually don't have that many questions. But we'll just go on mute for a couple of seconds and see if there's any more come through, and then wrap the call up if not. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any more questions coming through. So from myself and Gemma, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join the call. Hope you found it useful. And yeah, just to really hammer home that message, please go and check your vehicles. Please spread the word to your friends and family and colleagues. There's less than 100 days to go now until the zone goes live, and what me and Gemma and the whole team really want is that on that 1st of June, that nobody who goes to the zone or lives in Birmingham doesn't know that this is happening. But we need your help with that. So please spread the word. When you get the email with the link in it, share it. Please share this information as wide as possible. But no further questions. Thanks once again for joining, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.